Okay, we're back. So this next section will be, once again, for people who are already members of the Krishna conscious movement, already practicing devotional service. But of course, I mean, everybody will hopefully benefit from hearing this instructions. But so right now, I'm speaking on the roof of a parking lot that's about a 10-minute walk from the temple. And the reason I'm out here is this parking lot is completely vacant, and it's quite spacious, it's clean, and it gives me an excellent opportunity to chant as loud as I want and watch the sunrise, which I really enjoy doing. And that probably I'm going to say something more about that, but not right now. But and it's been a very enlivening program. I have to admit that I get, without even trying, I just get energy and inspiration as soon as the first light comes in the sky, and it helps me chant better. I mean, actually, there's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto, I think it's the 5th chapter, text 33. Narada Muni is preaching to Vyasadeva, and he says, "O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by the very same thing?" So in other words, maybe it's a material thing, although I'm not completely convinced that it is. I know it's not, actually, and I'll explain that in a second. But what I do is I use the energy, physical and mental and emotional energy that I get, and the inspiration I get from seeing the sunrise. I'm using that in Krishna service. I use that to chant more enthusiastically. It doesn't happen if I just stay indoors and sit in a room. For me, this helps. So once again, I said I'm using it in Krishna service. So I feel justified. I feel like I'm doing something in Krishna consciousness. I don't feel like I'm in Maya coming up here to chant, because for that reason. And to just a bit further substantiate that point, actually, I will go into it now. I'm going to read you something, just a few sentences from a purport from the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Prabhupada mentions a little bit. Krishna himself says something about the importance of the sun and sunrise. And so I'll read that. While I'm looking for this, I'll just mention that there's another verse in the first canto of the Bhagavatam where Narada Muni says, "Idam hi vishvam bhagavan evetaro," which means that this cosmic manifestation is non-different from Krishna. In other words, it's a very intimate connection between nature and Krishna. Actually, in one lecture Prabhupada gave here in Los Angeles on the teachings of Queen Kunti, I think it was in '73, he said, nature's way is Krishna's way. So they're very intimately connected. I always say to my wife, Krishna's the best cook, Krishna's the best artist, because, I live in New Dwarka, the temple here in Los Angeles, and, we have there's always a lot of prasadam around, and we have a lot of different cooks, and they're good cooks. But for me, nobody can compete with just the natural things that, like a good piece of fruit. I mean, just the things that come to you directly from nature, for me, I find always the most satisfying and the best. I know they're the most nutritious, and I also find them the most tasty. So that's where I'm coming from when I say Krishna is the best cook. Nobody can compete with like a really good ripe mango. You get the idea. And the same way, Krishna's the best artist. I mean, I studied art a little bit before I was a devotee when I was in college, and I remember my favorite artist was Claude Monet. Very talented fellow. You could look at his pictures and it made you feel something. And then he's not to take anything away. He was really good. But every morning when I come here and I watch the whole, I call it the greatest show on earth. When I was a kid growing up, they had the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, and the caption was, "This is the greatest show on earth." Well, I'd like to contest that. I don't think that was the greatest show on earth. I think the greatest show on earth takes place every morning, starting about an hour before the sun rises, and that's called the dawn. That's the greatest show on earth. And I've been watching that show on Earth now. I lost track of for how many years I've been doing this, but it's always the greatest show on Earth. It's the same show. It's the same show every morning, but I never get tired of it. Even on cloudy mornings, my appreciation for cloudy mornings has increased a lot over the last 6 months or so, because it's at every second Krishna's doing something different. Even when it's just a plain old beautiful no cloud in the sky morning, it's ecstatic. And even on mornings when it's completely overcast, it's still the light comes in the sky, and you're looking at all the combinations and permutations, the different ways, the varieties of the way the clouds are going, and it's amazing. Anyway, so here's this verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Yad aditya gatam te jo jagad basaya te kilam yach chandramasi yach chagno tat tejo vidimamakam. He says, the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. See, it's coming from Krishna. It's something. It got something to do with Krishna. Earlier on in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, Krishna says, Rasoham apsakuntaya prabhasmi sasi surya, that he's the light of the sun and the moon. Here he's elaborating upon that. And there's many other places, not just in the Bhagavad Gita, but in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where there's more things, more statements of this nature. And I'm going to share some of those with you as we go on. But I'll just read this right now, this morning. So, Prabhupada says one should simply try to understand that the splendor of the sun is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In such a conception of life, the beginning of Krishna consciousness, lies a great deal of advancement for the conditioned soul in this material world. The living entities are essentially parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and he is giving herewith the hint how they may come back home, back to Godhead. So, in other words, by appreciating that this is coming from Krishna, everybody loves, well, I don't know about everybody, but I think vast majority of people really like a beautiful, warm, sunny day. Like my friend who's encouraged me to do this, he's been traveling abroad, and yesterday he made the comment, boy, you really can't beat Southern California weather, warm, sunny, a lot of the time. And so people like that, and that's coming from Krishna. That's the point. That's coming from Krishna. And appreciating that, as Prabhupada says here, that's the beginning of your God consciousness. In this next paragraph, he sort of reiterates that point. He says here, so if one can understand that the light and the splendor of the sun are emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin. Yeah, the sunshine, the moonshine is so pleasing that people can understand that they are living by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Okay, so anyway, I'm reading, I just wanted to share that because, as I said, I was just trying to justify why I'm coming up here in the first place and not chanting in the temple, which doesn't happen automatically. I mean, a lot of hard work goes into getting a temple, making it nice into a temple, maintaining it. And so why is Bhrgupati Das leaving the temple and going on top of a roof of a parking lot to chant when he's be chanting in the temple? Okay, well, that was my attempt at justifying why I'm doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, I wanted to share this with you, that so this morning I chanted in the temple room a little bit, and I did have a really good experience, and I felt like I got a lot of realization, and it reminded me of an instruction Prabhupada gave, which I wanted to share with everybody. I'm tempted to say, probably everybody's heard that expression, it's all good. Well, I mean, in material life, I don't think that's the case, but in Krishna consciousness, maybe it's more relevant than applicable. So in other words, I think that what I'm, this program of coming and chanting and getting inspiration from the dawn and the sunrise, it's good, but it's also good to chant in the temple. And I'll read you this. So this is a paragraph Prabhupada wrote. He's talking about Haridas Thakur, and it's talking about the past time where Haridas Thakur was chanting. He used to chant 300,000 names. That's like 192 or close to 192 rounds every day. And so Prabhupada was in his purport, he was saying that you can't imitate Haridas Thakur, but we should try to follow in his footsteps. Anyway, this is what he says. I'll read this paragraph. It said, Haridas Thakur used to chant the holy name on his beads 300,000 times daily. Throughout the entire day and night, he would chant the 16 names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. One should not, however, imitate Haridas Thakur, for no one else can chant the holy name 300,000 times a day. Such chanting is for the Mukta Purush, or liberated soul. We can follow his example, however, by chanting 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra on beads every day and offering respect to the Tulsi plant. Well, up to that point, I'm doing fine, because I chant 16 rounds every day, and I offer respect to the Tulsi plant, because I'm in the temple, for the first part of the morning program, and right after Mangalarti we have Tulsi Puja, and we offer respect to the Tulsi plant. But then he goes on to say, this is not at all difficult for anyone, and the process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with a vow before the Tulsi plant has such great spiritual potency that simply by doing this, one can become spiritually strong. So I always feel a little bit guilty when I read that sentence when I'm up here. I feel a little bit guilty when I remember that sentence, because Prabhupada is specifically saying that we should chant with a vow before the Tulsi plant. So, you could offer creative explanations for what before means, but generally speaking, it means, you're sitting in the temple room, there's a Tulsi plant right there, and you're chanting. So I'm not doing that. And I'm not organized enough to bring a Tulsi plant up here. I don't think that would be very practical. But, so Prabhupada says, therefore we request the members of the Hare Krishna movement to follow Haridas Thakur's example rigidly. Chanting 16 rounds does not take much time, nor is offering respects to the Tulsi plant difficult. Once again, he's just saying respects. The process has immense spiritual potency. One should not miss this opportunity. So in other words, the reason I'm reading this is I have to admit that when I was sitting in the temple room this morning and chanting in front of the Tulsi plant before I left to come up here, I got a lot of realizations. So in other words, the Prabhupada's instructions, his potency in these instructions, if it might be something that you think, well, why would that make a difference? But it does. It did. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. I think both programs are good, but if you're in a situation where it's not practical for you, or you don't think it's the right thing to do, chant at home. Get a Tulsi plant, offer respects to the Tulsi plant, sit down in front of the Tulsi plant and chant your rounds. You can do it. You can do it. Actually, I had the idea that I couldn't sit and chant for years because I was very restless. But I just made a determined effort to do it, and now with a little practice you can do it. So that's a very good program. Once again, Prabhupada says, chanting 16 rounds does not take much time, nor is offering respects to the Tulsi plant difficult. Here it is, this sentence. The process has immense spiritual potency. One should not miss this opportunity. So Prabhupada's, it's like would you say it? It's like a secret, He's giving you a clue here, a hint how to make some advancement in Krishna consciousness. Just chant, offer respects to the Tulsi, have a Tulsi plant, take care of it, chant in front of the Tulsi plant. That process has immense spiritual potency. Prabhupada saying one should not miss this opportunity. And so it just made me, when I was doing that this morning and experiencing the benefit, it made me remember another instruction from Prabhupada that I was paying more attention to previously, but sort of strayed away from over the course of time. But immediately I remembered that, and And I think I decided, well, maybe I should try to pay more attention to that. That was, and there's a little story behind this too. Well, the instruction is found in the Anchalila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anchalila Volume 3. I believe it's text 4 and 5. And it goes like this: H.I. Goshai Kodi Charana Vandan Yaha Hoite Bignana Shabishta Paran. The translation is, I pray to the lotus feet of, this is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami speaking. I pray to the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath, so that all impediments to my writing this literature will be annihilated and my real desire will be fulfilled. So the purport is, Prabhupada says, if one wants to benefit the entire world, he will certainly find persons like hogs and pigs who will put forward many impediments. That is natural. But if a devotee seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, the merciful Goswamis will certainly give the Lord's servitor all protection. It is not astonishing that impediments are placed before those who are spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Nevertheless, if we adhere to the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated and the transcendental devotional desire to the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. So I feel like I have a relationship with this instruction. You can see what I did here. I took a picture of the 6 Goswamis and I kind of made a little thing here, picture with that purport, translation and purport underneath and the picture there. So I feel like I have a relationship with this particular instruction. Actually, I believe you can have a relationship with different instructions of Prabhupada. Prabhupada is non-different from his instructions, and I can't give you a quote to substantiate this, but this is my feeling that you have you can actually have a relationship or a rasa with particular instructions or of coming from Krishna, your spiritual master. Anyway, I'll explain. I first became aware of this of the 6 Goswamis when I was in the temple in New York City. I joined in 1973 in Brooklyn, and then after about 2 years, we moved from Brooklyn to Midtown Manhattan. The devotees got a friend of mine here is wearing a T-shirt I gave him with a picture of the 6 Goswamis. But we moved from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and we got a building there. Prabhupada used to refer to it as our skyscraper building. It's an 11-story building. Anyway, I was a Sankirtan devotee. I used to go out and distribute books, and our Sankirtan leader, devotee named Budara Das, he got us, he used to have a meeting with us before he'd send us out to distribute, and what we did at the meeting was we chanted the song, Shri Shri Sad Goswami Astika. We would chant that song every day, very enthusiastically. That's how he trained us. We chant it very enthusiastically and read the translation very enthusiastically. And I noticed that, wow, it kind of got us, we've experienced some enlivenment, some spiritual inspiration from doing that, some taste. And so we did that, and but then I forgot all about it. But then when I got to Australia, and that's a thing in Krishna consciousness, quite often you get a taste, you're getting some realization, and when that happens, don't treat it, don't think of Krishna as a water faucet that you can turn him on and off. When you're getting that mercy from Krishna, when you're being enthusiastic and you're surrendering and you experience that reciprocation from Krishna, whatever you did to get that, keep doing it. Don't stop, because as I said, Krishna is not like a water faucet that you can turn him on and off. I've made that mistake many times in my devotional service. I'd be out on Sankirtan, and after a long day of really struggling and trying to surrender and really performing all sorts of austerities, towards the end of the day all of a sudden things would start happening. The books would start going out, and beyond that, I'd be chanting and I'd be experiencing a taste, and I could feel like, wow, I'm getting Krishna's mercy here. But then I'd look at my watch and I say, oh well, it's 7 o'clock or something. It's such and such time. It's time to stop. So I guess I'll stop now, and it'll be like this again tomorrow. But that's not what happens. Tomorrow you're starting from scratch again. You know, when you're getting Krishna's mercy, if you're in a situation and you're getting Krishna's mercy, keep going. You can't count on the fact that that same mercy is going to be there, that, you know, when you want it the next day or a little bit later. No, we don't call the shots. It's Krishna's calling the shots. And if Krishna's in the mood to give you the mercy, then you just keep performing in your devotional service until he gets in a different mood and he stops giving you the mercy. Don't stop while the mercy's flowing, you know. That's one point. Anyway, getting back to the thing. So I didn't do that, and I forgot all about the six Goswamis and you know, how enlivening it was chanting that song. But then I was in Australia. I was transferred to Australia in 1978. I was there for 11 years, and at one point I was anyway. Just get right to keep the story, you know, focused. I was asked to go out on a marathon, but at that point I was not doing, I wasn't a Sankirtan devotee for a while. I was a temple vice president or co-president, and I had different duties, so I wasn't going out regularly on Sankirtan, and I was a bit rusty. So they asked me to go out on the Prabhupada marathon, and that's a month-long marathon. And it was, at that point we were selling paintings. We had a problem in Australia with public relations, so the devotees weren't selling books on the street. We were actually going out and selling paraphernalia. The profit from the paraphernalia sales was used to print books, which then we were distributing freely at events and whatever to the public. So, you know, make a better impression. That was the idea. That was the psychology there. But so this is the first day of the marathon when I was out there with the paintings, and you know, everybody was expected to do pretty well. So I got out of the car and I had this roll of paintings, and I was walking and going from shop to shop, and I didn't really feel like doing it. And when I was going into the stores, nobody was interested to look at the paintings, and you know, that went on for about, like, I can't remember how long. Maybe I tried for an hour or so, plus or minus, and I felt very discouraged because, you know, I didn't feel enthusiastic to do it, and nobody was interested to look at these paintings, and, you know, so I thought, wow, what am I? You know, I went back to the car, I sat down, and I thought, what am I going to do? This is the first day of the marathon. I'm totally, like, bummed out. You know, how am I going to do this? This marathon goes for 30 days. I'm going to bomb out. And so I really didn't, you know, I was at a loss. What do I do? So I was just sitting there in the car, and I thought to myself, well, maybe I should, you know, read a bit, or, you know, try to do something to get some inspiration. So I looked up, and on the dashboard of the car there was one book there. And I thought, okay, I'll read a bit. And it's worked out. Just so happened it was the Ancha Lila, Volume 3, and I opened up to the beginning, and I read the first few verses, and then I came across this verse, and I read this, just what I just read to you, and when I read that, I guess it was like Bilva Mangala Thakur got inspiration from Chintamani. I read it, and I thought to myself, whoa, yeah. This is here. Well, here's a hope. You know, let me try that. And especially, you know, what Prabhupada says here in the end, that if we adhere to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated, and the transcendental, the devotional desire to the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. So I guess it was super soul. I just spontaneously, this idea came to my mind that, okay, let me try this. What do I got to lose? I'm at rock bottom here, you know. I mean, so the idea popped in my head that I'm going to go out there, and at that point I didn't know the full song by memory. I mean, I knew how to sing it, but I never memorized it. So I decided I was just going to chant Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghuya Go Shri Jiva Gopalako. I was just going to chant that over and over again, and that was going to be my way of praying for the mercy of the six Goswamis. And you know, go out there and try to sell the paintings. So I just grabbed my roll of paintings and I set off back to the store, and I just was chanting, you know, praying for the mercy of the six Goswamis by chanting that mantra, and lo and behold, everything changed. honestly, everything changed. I mean, people started looking at the paintings. I started feeling more enthusiastic and enlivened. I don't know which came first. People started looking at the paintings, buying the paintings. I wound up having a halfway decent day in terms of results, and I felt very encouraged by that. So immediately I started memorizing the song. I decided to expand my meditation from just chanting that one line to chanting the whole song. So it wasn't, I said I had been chanting it for years, but I never bothered to memorize it. So I memorized it, and then what I started doing was chanting the whole song. So that was my meditation throughout the whole marathon. I was just chant the song, first chant the Sanskrit, and then the English translation. And again, the Sanskrit and the English translation. And again, I just, as much as I could, I just was, a loop. I just kept chanting the song and then reciting the translation over and over and over again. And every day was getting better and better. I wound up going from like 0 to being tied for first place in the marathon. And I remember the grand finale of the whole thing was I was working with another devotee, and he couldn't understand how I was doing so well. He was like a regular Sankirtan devotee. He was like he's a good salesman. He was a well-built guy, kind of good-looking, well-dressed. And one day he got so frustrated because, we're competing. Devotees compete with each other. He came up to me and says, how is this happening? How are you doing this? He said, you don't have any profile, because I wasn't, it's the way I was dressed. I wasn't dressed very, fashionably or anything like that, just pretty crudely. You don't have a profile. You don't have good lines. You don't, how are you, how is it every day you're doing so good? I said, Prabhu, I shared it with him, He took it on a little bit, but I don't think to the degree I did. But he appreciated it. Anyway, so we ran out of our good towns to do, and we decided. But we were in this one town called Goulburn. It's one of the country towns in New South Wales in Australia, and we decided when we pulled into that town that we were going to do everything. We were going to do all the shops, all the factories. You name it, we would do it. So we were there for, I think, a couple days. Maybe this was the second day or the third day, I can't remember. But we had done all the shops, and we'd done everything. And really, there was no towns left to do, so we were thinking, but there was still one day left to the marathon. It was like the day before Christmas or something like that. So we was thinking, well, maybe let's just go back. We don't have anything to do anyway. But then we saw this a mental hospital. And we decided, you know what? We said we'd do everything, so we should do this Marcy State Mental Hospital or something like that. And we decided, well, let's go and do it. So we went, and we go into the front in the reception area, and the lady who was there said, "Oh, you're back." We'd never been there before. Said, "Oh, you're back." Okay, yeah, well, I guess so. And she said, well, hang on, I'll call Mr. Miles. So we just went along for the ride, So she brings the manager of the hospital out there, and he goes, oh, the boys with the paintings, you're back. Obviously, some other Sankirtan devotees must have been there before, but, it wasn't us. So they said, okay, well, so he said, let the nurses come down and have a look at the paintings. He was an old guy. Ted Miles was his name. And so all the nurses come down, and we're showing them the paintings, and they're going, okay, well, yeah, very nice. Well, what are you going to give them to us? They were joking, And he goes, yeah. He said, because he was on his way out. He was about to retire, He said, yeah, why don't you pick out some paintings, for your wards or for a Christmas present or something like that. And, and they said, really? He said, yeah. I said, oh, well, okay. So he went back to his office, and then they were picking out these paintings, like, 1, 2, 3, each nurse, all the different ones. So anyway, to make a long story short, it was late in the day when we got there that day. So, and some of the nurses had already knocked off and went home. And so we said well, if you like, we could come back tomorrow and get all the ones that missed out today. So we did that. And then after it was all said and done, we went to his office, and we did like about $13,000 worth of paintings, which was like, a huge day. I mean, if you did $1,000 in a day, it was great. So between the two of us, we sold $13,000 worth of paintings. But the thing was, the whole time, I mean, it was the meditation. Constantly I was just remembering the 6 Goswamis, praying for their mercy, just chanting that song, chanting the translation, and I just really felt that was what did it. It was just that. And I've have other experiences like that, in relation to this instruction. So once again, just I guess I'm making this point to the big point, or the overarching point is there's potency in Prabhupada's instructions, but you got to plug in. You got to really plug into them. It's not, they're not meant to be taken casually. You can take them casually, but then it doesn't happen. You don't get that result. But when you really plug in, when you really take shelter of an instruction coming from Prabhupada, then, yeyatamam papajante tam sataiva bhajami aham. Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So as we, to the degree that we really take shelter of and plug in and really seriously apply, particular instruction in our life, to that degree, that the internal potency will be revealed to us. That's pregnant within that instruction. And that was my experience specifically with this thing with the 6 Goswamis, and to a certain extent with chanting in front of Tulsi. And I'm sure the devotees who are listening, if there are any, hopefully have had similar experiences with probably other instructions of Srila Prabhupada. But I think that's the principle. The principle is that we just have to really take shelter of the instruction of the spiritual. That's what's meant by that verse. I wish I was on this platform. I'm not, but there's a verse I learned very early on in my Krishna consciousness. Yasya deve para bhaktir tata devi tata guru tashaite katita kiyartak prakashanti mahatmanaha. That only to those great souls who have implicit faith in the words of the Supreme Lord, and as much faith in the words of the spiritual master, all the imports of the Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. That's how it works. It's a cultivation. It's a decision and a cultivation. It's not like something that just happens automatically. You have to make a decision to try to place your faith. That's what taking shelter means. Taking shelter means making that conscious decision to place your faith in what you're hearing from the spiritual master and putting that into practice. That's part of placing your faith in it. It's not just like a mental thing. It's existential. You live it. You see, you try to, you really try to, you get up early. You make all the arrangements so that you can chant your rounds in an atmosphere that's conducive to really paying attention, etc. If you place your faith in the instruction of the spiritual master fully like that, then that's when that reciprocation, then all the imports of the Vedic knowledge become revealed. And that verse, that's from the Svetashvatara Upanishad, but basically, the same thing is stated by Krishna in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It's basically saying, Krishna's saying the same thing. I just heard Prabhupada make that point the other day that, it's the Vedic literatures are consistent. You don't hear something different in the Bhagavad Gita than what you heard in the Isopanishad or what you're hearing in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the same. It's maybe, a few different words, but it's the same, in essence, the same philosophical point. Anyway, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Out of compassion for them, I, who am dwelling within their heart, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So that's the Nasyami Atma Bhava Shto Jnana Dipena Bhashvata. Krishna is within the heart, and when he sees that somebody's taking shelter, has made that decision to place their faith in the instructions, in his instructions and the instructions of the spiritual master, then Krishna reciprocates. And that reciprocation takes the form of Krishna Nasyami Atma Bhava Shto. He destroys with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And then you understand. There's a very nice verse in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It goes, when you are enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then your knowledge will reveal everything, just like the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So how does that work? How does the sun light up everything in the daytime? Well, it's gradual, it's complete, it's gradual, and for me, it's glorious. I love it. So when you're enlightened by the knowledge by which nations is destroyed, it's going to be that kind of an experience. It's a very wonderful experience. When Krishna destroys with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. It's gradual. It'll happen gradually. Krishna can do it. It could happen instantaneously. That's what an epiphany is. An epiphany is a moment of enlightenment. It can happen like that, or it can happen over a gradual period of time. But it's full, and it's a wonderful experience. It's actually what we're really. It's what we're actually. Lord Chaitanya says it gives us, the Sankirtan movement gives us a taste of the nectar for which we're always anxious. It's what we're actually always anxious for. Elsewhere, I can't remember which Shastra it's coming from, but I know it's found in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a verse that goes, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sabu Kabenaya Shravana De Sude Chitte Kore Udai, that pure love for Krishna, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, is within the heart of the living entity. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sabu Kabenaya. It's not to be found anyplace else. Shravanade Sudha Chitte Korya Udaya. It's awakened by the process of hearing and chanting. So in other words, when you engage in devotional service, particularly hearing and chanting, surrendering to the spiritual master, then that dormant love for Krishna, which is within our heart, becomes awakened. That's what Krishna is saying there when he's saying, I destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Krishna clears away the material contamination, and your natural love for Krishna becomes awakened. And that's the goal. So we're going to pause there for a second, if that's okay.